Hey guys, this is Juan with the Cine-Men Movie Podcast, letting you know that this episode is brought to you by San Marcos Mexican Restaurants, located right here at 2301 Southwest 59th Street in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Don't forget they have weekday specials Monday through Friday for just $5.99, and then they have the great Margarita Wednesdays. It's the best medicine to get over that hump day, frozen or on the rocks. $5 margaritas. San Marcos Mexican Restaurant. Great food and even better customer service. Let Abel know that the Cine-Men Movie Podcast sent you for an extra 10% off your entire purchase. San Marcos, the only dine-in restaurant of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.
A piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do? You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Happy Monday, moviegoers. Welcome to a brand new episode. Welcome to episode 202. Welcome to Malcolm X, and welcome to the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. I am your host, Juan, and I am joined by the cast, the crew, the guys. Zacchaeus.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Craig.
Yo.
What's up, everybody? How's your weekend been?
Busy.
Busy, Zach?
Hot.
It is hot. It is some record heat for us this weekend, and coming to you from the land down under in Oklahoma City. It is warm, but you know what, guys? You know what's more shocking about it than it's being so hot outside is we only have one episode left after today for the month of July, and July is already over.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
July has flown by, and Craig, I know you're excited. We're pretty much just like 4 weeks away, and then you have some fall weather, maybe some college football.
So we are approximately 40 days from the start of college football, and give or take 3 weeks till the start of NFL preseason.
So it's getting ready to be our most favorite time of the year. You got Oscar movies coming up in September. You got football coming up. Halloween is right around the corner, so it's
Spooky season.
It's getting to be some fun times. And you know what? In the last few years, we kind of stepped away from spooky season, but it's coming back full force this year. The entire month of September, the entire month of October, completely dedicated to nothing but spookiness. So I'm excited. I know you guys are too. If you guys want to take a look back at last week's episode, it was episode 201. We talked all about Thor, Love and Thunder. We were able to give a star rating on it. So go back and check out that episode wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, the audible versions of both We Were Soldiers and Reign of Fire dropped this over the weekend. So go check those out wherever you listen to podcasts. Our bonus episodes are in full force. But today, guys, we kick off Denzel week here at the podcast. Today we're talking Malcolm X, and then in just a few short days, me and Zacchaeus are going to be talking about John Q this Thursday, the 20th anniversary of John Q. That comes to you already this Thursday. You guys can also check us out on the social media. We're giving away all kinds of digital copies in the next couple of weeks. So you want to keep your eyes out for that. Facebook.com/the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Instagram is all one word, Cine-Men Movie Podcast. And then the Twitter is at Cine-Men405. The Instagram is popping. Honestly, we're starting to develop a lot more followers on the Instagram and on the Twitter. We're just a few follows away from approaching 400 on Twitter, which it's pretty fun, especially starting out with just like two. Um, you guys can also listen to us on a podcast network. So go log on to www.prescribedfilms.com and you can check us out on that entire network full of other great podcasts. So go check us out over there. And then you can watch us live every Monday and Thursday here on Imuswa Productions YouTube channel. So not only will you see me on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, but now I'm also going to be picking up a wrestling podcast coming up. So you guys will see me 4 times a week on this channel talking to you about a bunch of a great fun, great bunch of content here in the next coming weeks. But Zach, you have some great news and some great stuff to talk about Rodeo Cinema.
Oh yeah, over at good friends over at Rodeo Cinema, 2221 Exchange Avenue, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Just a great organization. We're starting to do a lot of things with them here in the next couple months and throughout the year mostly. Currently, right now, you can watch David Lynch's Lost Highway, which ironically enough, I saw is getting a Criterion release later this year. You can still see Elvis official competition, and then this weekend, guys, starting this Thursday, July 21st, after you listen to us talk about John Q, go over to Rodeo Cinema and watch Nope, because we're going to be talking about it next Monday. And then don't forget, guys, Sunday, July the 31st, all of us are going to be doing a live lobby show of starting off our A24 month with Everything Everywhere All at Once. And come say hi. We're going to be watching the movie and doing the show afterwards. So go check them out and support Rodeo Cinema and tell them that the Cine-Men Movie Podcast sent you.
I don't have a lot of subject material to bring up for this segment today. If anybody else wants to type anything in or push anything through, they can. The only thing that I saw that was huge that I wanted to just hurry up and bring up was Peter Dinklage has officially signed on for the new Hunger Games movie. I knew there was a new book that came out a few years ago, but I did not know that they were in full-fledged of making a film. But they are.
It's a prequel. I think it's a prequel. I think the movie comes out November of next year.
The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So I'm interested. I can't wait to check it out. Anything Hunger Games, I think it's a great concept. Even though we've talked about this a few years ago about it coming from like the battle royale Japanese movies. Hunger Games is a fun topic to get into, well, and I think maybe next year it's our turn to dive into some Hunger Games movies.
Yeah, Hunger Games kind of took the battle royale Japanese concept, like you said, but let's not discredit the fact that it pretty much kicked off the entire concept of battle royale video games. You have Call of Duty Modern Warfare with Warzone, you have Fortnite, you have PUBG. All of these games are doing this battle royale type style, and I want to say it's credited to the Hunger Games. Like it kind of kicked off that entire thing, even though it did take the idea from an earlier film. I just kind of throwing that out there.
Yeah, and the first movie actually turned 10 years old this year, and Catching Fire turns 10 years old next year. So it's kind of insane.
Oof. Maybe we can kick it off this year by talking about the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But that's kind of all I wanted to bring up, other than also Sylvester Stallone is in a fight for his Rocky life, not his real life, but he wants full rights back to Rocky, the franchise. And I guess it belongs to one of the producers or somewhere along the lines of that nature. Sylvester Stallone wants rights back to the Rocky franchise. What do you guys think? He in his statement, he says that he wants it for his kids. He wants to leave his kids something with the Rocky franchise. I mean, I kind of agree with Stallone that it was his idea, it was his script, it was his baby. if he can pay for it and claim it, let him claim it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to do any more films, if they're going to do a reboot after he's gone. I don't know, but I mean, I kind of agree with what you're saying, Johnny. It's like he came up with the character, he came up with the whole notion of what Rocky is. So I think he deserves to, have the say of what's going to happen to it after he's gone.
Yeah, but then I mean that's you get into that part of business. There are no friends in Hollywood, or once you get to that level, like if there's something to be made that's to make money, all bets are off. I don't care if you wrote the story or not. If I have the rights and it's under my name, like I don't have to do anything, regardless of what you put into it. And I think that's a shame that it's coming down to that.
Yeah. So that's all I'm gonna kind of bring up in the movie news, unless you guys want something else to talk about.
No,
But
good.
now let's get into some recent watches. Zach, do you have anything that you want to recommend, or you want to talk about?
It's a light week. I watched John Q for this coming episode, for the next bonus episode. Better Call Saul just started the final 6 episodes on Amazon on AMC Plus. Hell of a first episode. I mean, I can't really wait to see how this is going to end. And there are times I've said it on the show before that I think this show is even superior to Breaking Bad. The drama, the characterization, even the mythology that they're trying to build that leads up to certain events in the original series is just awesome. Vince Gilligan is just a masterful writer. And I think The Old Man wraps up the final episodes this Thursday. So
Nice.
I say Better Call Saul, obviously, and The Old Man.
I checked out Rain of Fire for our bonus episode this past week. Insidious Chapter 2 for review. It was a pretty fun watch, honestly. I think the first one is just so superior that I don't think the second one really had a chance. But that full review is over on Friday the 14th podcast. You can go check it out on this YouTube channel. The Beatles Get Back, that documentary or that special came out. I believe it's also on Disney Plus.
Yeah, directed by Peter Jackson. The first disc is 2.5 hours. There's 3 discs. I'm only an hour and a half into it, but it's pretty solid, honestly. Talked about Will Smith a few weeks ago made me check out 7 Pounds. I'm halfway in the middle of The Cursed, which is a 2022 horror movie. It's really, really good so far. The chick who plays the daughter, Zach, in Yellowstone is in it. Oh, nice.
Yeah. Starting to slowly get into some A24 binging. I started with The Florida Project. Same thing with Denzel. Checked out Malcolm X and The Pelican Brief. But what I want to recommend this week is The Bear. It's a story about a kitchen in Chicago, and it's available to stream now on Hulu. It's not very long at all. 8 episodes, 20 minutes apiece. And the final episode is 40 minutes. So if you like language and you like high intense chef shows, I highly recommend this for you. Honestly, guys, it blew me away. I saw previews when I went and saw Elvis, like one of those 30-second trailers. And I was like, it looks good. So I checked it out, and I never binge watch. You guys know me. I never binge watch a new TV show, but I binge watch it all in one day from 2 p.m. to like 7 p.m. all over. And I probably would have finished earlier, but I had to keep pausing for some personal matter. But yeah, The Bear on Hulu, highly recommend it. Go check it out. If you don't like the first episode is 20 minutes. If that first episode doesn't hook you, it's not one of those I'm going to tell you, oh, it gets better with 2 or 3. No. I was hooked from episode 1. If that 20 minutes does not hook you, don't watch it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it takes a lot for you to get into TV shows now.
It does.
It was hell of an impersonation.
Yeah, it was really good. I'm spitting all over myself here that I got so excited. Craig, what about you, man? You recommend anything?
So start of the week last week after the last podcast, checked out iRobot. It is what it is.
I like it.
It's a good movie. It's it's a good movie. I'll just put it that way. It's not like it doesn't excel in any spots. It's a good fun watch. I checked out X because Johnny was ranting and raving about it. I personally was just like, cool. I'll use Zach's term. It's fine. I did like the way they shot a lot of the scenes in it, though. Like Johnny, when the bus or when the vans go into the house and it's like shot really far back.
Oh yeah,
and it kind of I like the way that they shot some of the things. It was very 80s. I got the vibe from it. I got A24 vibes from it, but at the end of the day, I just couldn't take Kid Cudi seriously.
Did you like X or Midsummer better?
Midsummer was definitely like more just like out there, and it was like more. There was more to the story that was captivating to me. I kind of understood where X was going to go, and it was all really the movie is about execution with X.
Yeah.
Whereas Midsummer has kind of a story and a plot that it's wanting to tell.
I want to talk so much about X with you and get some, but we're going to talk about it in just a few short weeks, so we might as well just hold off on it till then. So,
and then I made plans to go see Paws of Fury with Michael Cera and Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
Holding that off till this Friday, so I'm going to go see that then. But between those two and kind of SEC and Big 12 Media Days, that's all I've really been doing kind of in the free time. And yeah, that's it.
Nice. Paws of Fury looks like it could be one of those movies that might sneak up on people as far as how good it is. But I'm still kind of iffy on what it's going to do at the box office with Nope being released right next to it. But so far these kids movies, even Lightyear did like 50 million, I think, opening weekend. So far, all these kids movies this summer have just blown the money out of the water. So I think it's going to be a pretty good stand-in.
I think Paws of Fury has a better trailer when it comes to getting people to kind of entice them to go see it. Yeah. The whole I'm trying to think of the rapper's name.
Who is it?
The guy that did the Black Panther album.
Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar, yeah. His song's going on. It was on Madden last year. It's a very, upbeat. I think it's going to pull a lot more people in than what Lightyear did for its trailers, regardless of the story for it.
Well, and we have another kids film after Nope is the
DC one.
Yeah, with Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson.
And that
Pets.
Yeah, that looks funny too. So
yeah, we're going back-to-back weekends, me and Adley.
So. You're going to take her to go see Nope?
No.
Nope. Yeah.
Don't forget, guys, this episode is also brought to you by CDR Electronics, located right here at 1604 West I-240 Service Road. CDR Electronics serves the OKC metro area with the best value for your electronics. They have it all. They have physical media, Blu-rays, DVDs, video games, cell phones, computers, iPhones, watches, whatever they do have it all. Whatever you need to be up to date and to be hip with everybody, like the kids say. Zach, we know that's where you go for all your gates and gadgets. That's where we go. So visit them at CDR Electronics at 1604 West I-240 Service Road, right here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And let them know, as always, that the Cine-Men Movie Podcast sent you. But Zach, before you die on me over there, you have some facts about Malcolm X that we...
You want answers?
I want answers.
Okay.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Zach, let us know.
That's like the best thing ever.
It is. It is. Let us know those truth facts from Zach.
All right. So, number one, Spike Lee urged kids to cut school to see his movie, believing that Malcolm X provides just as much or more education. Number two, Malcolm X's widow, Dr. Betty Shabazz, if I am butchering that, I apologize, served as a consultant to this film. Brother Barnes, who leads Malcolm X to the Nation of Islam, is a fictional composite character. In his autobiography, Malcolm X says he was led to the Nation of Islam through letters from his brother and sister. And then this was the first non-documentary film that was given permission to film in Mecca. The film's second unit filmed all the scenes there and is portrayed accurately.
Zach, what was? I know you pick out a few facts, but what's probably one of those right now? Honestly, just the ones on top of your head that you were most likely kind of shook with.
It's not because I could just see Spike Lee doing that. Was where he kind of was persuading kids to cut school and go see his movie. Like I could see him. That's not. It is. I mean, it's kind of shocking, but at the same time, like, yeah, I could see him doing that.
Well, I mean, it's kind of very Malcolm X-ish. It's fight the system. Do opposite of what the system tells you to do. So,
yeah. And guys, if you can't beat this summer heat right now, check out our good friends over at OKC Soda Company. The craft soda company of Oklahoma with super unique flavors like strawberry shortcake, blueberry acai, and their good old-fashioned root beer made with pure cane sugar and all natural flavors. It's the perfect ice-cold beverage that you want in your cooler this summer party. We got a Labor Day weekend coming up. We still have a whole hot month of August. So check them out, all different kinds of flavors. And if you can, email them at okcsodacompany.com and let them know that you heard it first right here on the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. You can also get their soda at Pruitt Foods, some Crest locations here in the city, and also some Homeland stores. So check them out, man. It's the perfect ice cold beverage this summer. But guys, I don't know about you. I've been pretty excited about this week's top 5. This week we are talking our top 5 our top 5 biopics. So let's dig into it because this is our most honored and favorite segments every week that we do. Top 5. Before we dig into the list, does anybody have any honorable mentions that they want to throw out there before we get into 5? Zach?
Yeah, I'll just round them off real quick. The Founder, the Ray Kroc movie with Michael Keaton, Dallas Buyers Club, Ray, Green Book, and my official honorable mention, which a lot of people will be surprised that it's not my top 5, The Irishman.
I just have a few. A Beautiful Mind, Gandhi, and then my official honorable mention is going to be in theaters. Go check it out, Elvis. Zach, let's start off with you. What's number 5 for you?
Number 5 for me is a film
But before we say 5, we have our
5.
We have our special female friend that says 5 for us.
Number 5 is a film that we actually did a review on 3 years ago, I think, which is hard to believe. It'll be 3 years this year. We did it right after our Tom Hanks profile piece, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, based on the true story of a real life friendship between Fred Rogers and journalist Lloyd Vogel. Man, just the way they made this film to make it not only a biopic, but also kind of paying homage to the original Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood with all the little homages and tricks and trades of the filmmaking process. And Tom Hanks' performance as Fred Rogers is so incredible. I mean, it's just spot on. The mannerisms, the characteristics of Fred Rogers he absolutely knocked out of the park. And it's just a story about just being kind, which, I mean, we all need in today's world. Everyone needs a little bit of kindness. And I definitely go check it out. And, if you can, go back in the archives and listen to our review about it.
I think one of the great legendary music artists of all time said, "All you need is love."
There you go.
Number 5 for me, I won't spend too much time on it because I know when I say this movie, people are like, "What the hell is that?" Anthony Hopkins, The Elephant Man, based on the true story of John Murrick. It is directed by David Lynch. It's a movie from 1980, but it just feels so dark and it feels original and it feels like honestly you're watching a real life elephant man going through his troubles. Um, I don't know how we spent going on 4 years and not talking about this movie, but I think it's just a fearful, tragic, dark story that I think everybody should know. And you know what? It is the month of July. You can go check it out at Barnes and Noble, 50% off during the Criterion sale.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can. Um, so, but yeah, I think the Elephant Man is just something that definitely should be talked about a little bit more. And you guys can see some of my nice little Criterion pickups from this past weekend. If you guys do like people talking physical media, check out me and Nick. We had a whole hour-long conversation, which is on this YouTube channel. Me and Nick were just going through and talking about physical media. So if you're into physical media talk, go check it out on this YouTube channel now.
You're showing off. I mean, this is my Citizen Kane, and I also got Irishman and Marriage Story. So come on, Craig, go and show something off.
I got Lightning McQueen.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Ciao. I just grabbed the closest thing I could.
Hey, it's physically. Craig, what about you? What do you got at number 5?
Number 5 for me is going to be Johnny Depp's Public Enemies.
Nice.
Kind of basing it off of John Dillinger's, kind of the gangster biopic stuff. I remember going back and seeing this in the theater with a good friend of mine from high school.
Lucky
just
bastard.
A good action film. What you never
I
you
did
didn't
not
get to
see
see
that
it?
in the theater, and that's
Yeah.
one of my favorite movies, so it hurts me.
It was just a movie that we were just like, "Hey, you want to go see a film?" He's like, "Yeah, what looks good?" And he was like, "Let's go see the Johnny Depp movie because he's a gangster. I want to be a gangster." So we went and thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it was just action packed. Johnny Depp knocks it out of the park. It's just I think it was a good spot for my number 5.
Number 4 is next.
4.
Young Zachary, what do you have at number 4?
Number 4, I did see this one in the theater actually, and I just was really just blown away at just how even though it's mostly just a dialogue heavy film, the performances and just kind of the conversations between these characters is just I kind of wish it felt like I was there. Number 4 is Steve Jobs from 2015 with Michael Fassbender, Kate Winslet, Seth Rogen, Jeff Daniels.
I thought you were going to say the Ashton Kutcher one.
No, what? That one doesn't exist in my mind. Yeah, it kind of just takes place between just like 3 different products, not marketing, but just kind of like 3 different product advertisement ceremonies, and it's just at different points in Steve Jobs' life and how he not only we've heard the stories, he demands so much perfection, but just kind of like he's kind of an ass, a different, just he has no human skills at all, but he's able to create some of the stuff that basically changed human existence. So, and like I said, some of the dialogue, there's one scene in particular with Michael Fassbender and Seth Rogen, and they're just talking about what has he contributed to the company. And it's just like an argument match back and forth, and it's just so powerful. And you can watch it on Netflix right now. So number 4 is Steve Jobs.
Nice. My number 4 is going to be about The Man in Black, Johnny Cash, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Reese Witherspoon, Robert Patrick. I forgot he was in that movie. Directed by James Mangold. I honestly haven't seen this since its Blu-ray release in, I think, around 2006. But from what I can remember, it is a fantastic movie. Another one about a great legendary singer. And honestly, right after I watched Elvis, I was like, man, this makes me want to watch Walk the Line. So, if it was a fresh on my my mind list, it would probably be a little bit higher. But right now, at number 4, Walk the Line from 2005.
I prefer the Dewey Cox story.
Is
Number
that
four.
your number 4?
No. Do the biopics have to be about real people? I'm just kidding. Number 4 is going to be The Blind Side. Michael Oher. From what I know, he was a Baltimore Raven. I don't know where he's at now, but
He's going nowhere.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's an excellent cast, but it did have some noticeable names in there with Sandra Bullock and Tim McGraw, Kathy Bates. Just one of those kind of feel-good movies, and it's a sports movie, football movie in particular. So I really enjoyed it. I thought Sandra Bullock was really good. I think Tim McGraw was really good as well in it, being the father. It's just a good, fun, kind of inspirational movie, and good enough for my top 5. So that's my number 4.
3.
Zach, number 3 for you.
Number 3, another one that we talked about right after after the Oscars, I think, when it hit Blu-ray. Number 3 is Ford versus Ferrari. American car designer Carroll Shelby and driver Ken Miles battle corporate interference in the laws of physics to build a revolutionary race car for Ford in order to defeat Ferrari at the 24-hour Le Mans in 1966. Directed by James Mangold, like you said, Johnny, who directed Walk the Line. This is a damn fun film. I mean, it's not just about the cars, it's about the relationship between Carol and Ken, who just wanted to make something that had never been created at that time. Matt Damon and Christian Bale give awesome performances. It's kind of a shame that they were not nominated for it. And it is, I think it's like almost 2.5 hours long, I think. 2 hours, yeah, 2:32. It flies by, honestly. It's one of those films that flies by and you have such a blast watching it. So number 3 is Ford versus Ferrari.
Nice. Number 3 for me is going to be about one Mark Zuckerberg, and that's The Social Network. With an amazing cast of Jesse Eisenberg, Andrew Garfield, Justin Timberlake, Rooney Mara, directed by David Fincher. This is one of those movies that as it gets older,
it gets better.
It gets better and better. And I think this is one of those movies that in its day and age, I think it was, how can I say this?
Overlooked because of the time frame that it was already in.
Maybe. Yeah.
Facebook was still relevant.
Yeah. That's true. That's the best way of putting it. I agree with you. Yeah. And I think if this movie were to come out today, it would be one of the biggest things people would probably be talking about. Just because of the relationship between the two of Mark Zuckerberg and, everybody that's around Facebook. So, it's just a matter of time. I'm sure they'll have like an Elon Musk movie or some shit like that. But, for me, The Social Network is, it's my Steve Jobs, Yeah. A lot of people who watch Steve Jobs or that movie, they're like, oh, I remember when Apple was getting ready to get lifted up off the ground. In the Beatles documentary I'm talking about, they're talking about Apple in that documentary. So Apple is, old, as far as like people in the 70s and 80s kind of knowing about Apple, but like, I was alive when Facebook launched. I was smack dab in the middle. I had an account like in 09, 08 when everybody else was getting one. So like, that's what makes this movie to me stand out. And then not to mention how damn good the dialogue is between Andrew Garfield and Justin Timberlake. Don't get me wrong, Jesse Eisenberg is good in this movie, but the back and forth battles between Garfield and Timberlake, mesmerizing. So that's my number 3.
It's definitely a movie that if we could go back and redo those Oscars, it would win Best Picture without a doubt.
Oh yeah, for sure. So number 3 for me is The Social Network. Craig, what do you got at 3?
Number 3 for me is going to be Ray, played by Jamie Foxx. I think as far as the actor portraying the character, I think Jamie Foxx is probably one of the best in a biopic to kind of do it. because the way he played Ray was second to none, in my opinion. But it's just, everybody knows Ray. Everybody knows the music and the kind of the shell of the story of Ray. And I think this really dives into, what all biopics do. It dives into it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's my number 3.
2,
Zach, number 2.
Number 2 turns 20 years old this year, and I'm hoping maybe later this year we can do an episode on it. Maybe even doing maybe even a bonus episode. Catch Me If You Can is my number 2. Barely 21, Frank Abagnale is a skilled forger who has passed as a doctor, lawyer, and pilot. FBI agent Carl becomes obsessed with tracking down the con man who only levels in his pursuit. Directed by Steven Spielberg, Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks. And interestingly enough, Christopher Walken, Martin Sheen, Amy Adams is in it, Jennifer Gardner. This is like, I know it's not a heist film, but it just feels like a heist film. It's just one of those, you could just tell how someone's life just like continuously dissolves into this lie after lie after lie until finally it's just like, dude, you can't get out of it anymore. And, like I said, he passes off as a doctor, a lawyer, a pilot. And some of the scenes in the movie are so funny. Honestly, it's not really a comedy, but it's just the two performances between Hanks and DiCaprio is just amazing. So yeah, hopefully we get to talk about it later this year. Number 2, Catch Me If You Can.
Number 2 is a tie. I got 2 movies in there at 2. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because we're talking about it today. The other one is Raging Bull. Robert De Niro, directed by Martin Scorsese. It's a real life story based on Zach, help me up here. I have a stroke.
Joe LaMotta.
Joe LaMotta. And, it talks about his famous fight with Sugar Ray Leonard and, De Niro, Joe Pesci. It feels gangsters, but it's not really. It's considered before some of the 90s and early 2000s movies came out as one of the greatest sports movies of all time, directed by, one of the greatest directors of all time. You just have that famous line from De Niro, he goes over there all beat up and bruised, and he's like, "You never knock me down, Ray."
Do it again?
But never knock me down, Ray.
That's De Niro in the house, ladies and gentlemen.
Where's my Oscar at? But no, I'm excited. I as soon as I got home from getting Raging Bull on 4K, I wanted to just pop it in and watch it, but I still have not had the time yet. So I'm hoping sometime tomorrow. But Raging Bull and Malcolm X, number 2 for me. Craig, what do you got at 2?
My number 2 is going to be Star Wars Episode 3. I'll biopic over Darth Vader. No. Number 2 for me is going to be Judas and the Black Messiah. We did it last February. I think we all gave it a 10, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Ed gave it an 8, 7. I don't know. He does dumb shit like that. So, but you can go back and listen to the episode. It's probably like episode 148, 145 or something like that. Because if we're going over weeks, 52 weeks a year. So it's around there. Damn good movie. Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield knock it out of the park. Wasn't that also a Spike Lee joint?
No. Felt like it though.
Yeah.
So I was trying to cover 2 with 1 with what we're doing today, but overall it was a really good movie, really good watch, especially for something that I don't think I would have normally picked up if I wasn't doing a movie podcast. So go check it out if you haven't seen it.
That was episode 128. Damn.
Wow. 128.
Wow.
That's insane.
But yeah, that's my number 2.
1,
All right, Zach, what is your favorite biopic?
We did it as one of our war movies during Memorial Day weekend. Hacksaw Ridge, directed by Mel Gibson, tells the story of Desmond Doss, who refuses to kill people and becomes the first man in American history to receive the Medal of Honor without firing a single shot. Incredible performance by Andrew Garfield. Vince Vaughn's in it, Sam Worthington. we talk about realism. We talked about it with We Were Soldiers, and how what draws me into a war movie is just how well you can depict the war sequences and just how realistic they can be. And maybe just because of Mel Gibson, he's maybe a crazy person, but the way he's able to depict some of those scenes in the film is just like, yeah, that's probably exactly how it was. So yeah, it's a great war film, and it's a really, really great biopic.
My number one is going to be based off of Henry Hill. We talked about it a few weeks ago. Goodfellas. I love me some gangster movies, and this was no different. So uh, there's not much more to say. It's Goodfellas. Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese. Go back just a few weeks ago and listen to that episode. We all had a fun time talking about it. So number one for me is Goodfellas. Craig, what do you got number one?
Number one for me, Bohemian Rhapsody. I didn't really know much about Queen. I didn't really know much about Freddie Mercury. I knew a few things, but I didn't know the entire story. Me personally, I absolutely loved the movie. There was a few scenes that were kind of iffy, but Rami Malek knocks it out of the park. I thought he was a great Freddie. The cast that played the band was also very similar in how they looked and everything. And I just think it was, personally, I loved it. It's not a movie that I ever thought I was going to like. Johnny, you told me it was good, and I was just like, yeah, it's a biopic. It's something like everything else. And watching that movie gave me a much deeper appreciation for the band in itself. And I think that's kind of what biopics are supposed to do. They're supposed to give you a deeper appreciation for the subject matter. So it's my number one.
Nice. Some good lists, guys. Some good movies. If you guys want to name out your top 5 biopics, send us in an email. We read emails at the end of every Monday's episode. So CINEMEN921@gmail.com. Also, guys, don't forget this episode is brought to you by Red and Blues Pizza, 4500 South May Avenue, right here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Give them a call for your pizza, 405-602-2838. They're open every single day of the week. If you're not into pizza, they also have sandwiches. They just introduced burgers. I think this past weekend, burgers have been a real big hit for them. So they have everything you need. Gyros, burgers, sandwiches. They have some big girthy wings. You can get a 12-piece wing for just $12.99. So what's that like? That's a pretty good deal, almost $1 a wing. So check them out, guys. Also let Myra know that the Cinema Movie Podcast sent you, and yeah, Red and Blues Pizza. You can order now. They're even open a little late. So who wouldn't want some pizza, some food with your movie?
You know what the best thing they offer there is, though, right?
The cinnamon sticks.
The service.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that too. But yeah, just now getting in, out of the top 5. So send us in some recent watches or some top 5s. Like I said, if you're watching here, there's the facebook.com/the Cinema Movie Podcast. Hit us up on the Instagram, which is one word, the Cinema Movie Podcast. The easiest and fastest way is the email. Email us at CINEMEN921@gmail.com. But now, guys, it is time to get into the movie. Our subject matter today is One Malcolm X. Before we get into it, though, as we always usually talk about the director, this one is directed by the great, famous Spike Lee. He has done a lot of great movies, stuff like Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, She's Gotta Have It, The Five Bloods, Black Klansman. He's also done some work with NBA 2K, Chirac City, lots of stuff there. But Zach, is there a famous or just a Spike Lee movie that jumps out and snags you when you talk about some of your favorites, or if you had to name just one?
We'll talk about him as a director as we go through this, but probably one that just I always forget that he directed it, which we'll probably talk about in our Denzel episode, was Inside Man, the bank robbery movie. So,
Real quick before we dive into it, with this, I would assume this is relevant. Man exonerated in Malcolm X killing sues New York City for $40 million. Guy that was wrongfully convicted. That was 3 days ago.
He's the one that was wrongfully accused of shooting Malcolm X?
Wrongfully convicted of killing Malcolm X is now suing New York City, the city that put him in jail.
Wow.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that.
That's
especially the scene that's in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's what a coincidence that 3 days ago this is all kind of coming out, and we're doing Malcolm X now.
Yeah.
They listened. They took it off of HBO Max.
You know what? Somebody doesn't want this story to be told, and we're going to talk about it definitely deep into the movie or deep into the episode. So I'm already a little hot under the collar about what I found out yesterday. But if I had to pick a Spike Lee movie or two, I would pick He Got Game. Clockers is honestly a really, really good movie. Crooklyn is a terrific classic Spike Lee movie. But it goes all the way back to his debut, Do the Right Thing. It's in the title, Do the Right Thing. And I would like to, before this year is over, maybe to talk about that movie real soon. But yeah, Craig, what about you? You have a Spike Lee movie that just sticks out to you?
Well, kind of a spoiler alert. My perception of what Malcolm X was is completely changed. I thought this was a damn good film. So I'll put that out there. And then I would say probably off the top of my head, I can't think of another one that I've actually recently seen. Maybe The Five Bloods. I'd say maybe that one.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 202, guys. You were able to see Malcolm X on HBO Max, but they took it off. You can now check it out for free on Tubi, or you can rent it and stream it while paying for it, but wherever you stream movies. IMDb has it at a 7.7, Rotten Tomatoes at 89%. The Metascore is at 73%, while the Google users have it at 91%. Its budget was $35 million, and it grossed a little over $73 million at the box office. A biopic epic of the controversial and influential Black nationalist leader from his early life and career as a small-time gangster to his ministry as a member of the Nation of Islam. Stars Denzel Washington, Angela Bassett, Delroy Lindo, Spike Lee, Albert Hall, Al Freeman Jr., Teresa Randall, Kate Vernon, Thomas Hollis, James McDaniel, Ernest Thomas, O.L. Duke, Debbie Mazur, directed by Spike Lee. Zach, we'll start with you. Do you remember the first time that you got to see this movie? And if not, or either way, what was it like revisiting it for this episode?
Be honest, this was my first time watch. I've never seen it before. It's always been one that's always kind of just not playing, but just kind of buzzing in the back of my mind. I know it's Denzel, I know it's Spike Lee, I know it deals with a very, I don't want to say controversial American figure, but it deals with the rise of what he's known for today. So, in a few short words, I thought it was very, very well done. Excellent performances. And for it to be a 3.5-hour film, it flew by. That was the biggest surprise to me.
Craig, what about you? I think this was actually it was going to be all three of you guys' first time watch. What did you think? Well, you already kind of told us what you thought. Do you want to say anything else, or are you ready to just dive in?
For this film being a 1992 film, Spike Lee did an amazing job of shooting it, like the way it was shot, um, the just the production of the film in general. When you think of 1992, you kind of think some films aren't amazing or good or anything like that. I don't know what this movie cost to make, but it was shot very, very well.
$35
So
million.
$35 million to shoot a 3-hour movie, and it was shot this well. Denzel knocked it out of the park. I'll leave it at that.
The studio only gave Spike Lee $25 million, but he went like completely snaggletooth, and he had to go over budget, especially going over and shooting in Egypt, which that was one of his things. He's like, I'm not going to do this movie unless I get to go to Egypt and shoot. And we'll get into it. But for me, this movie, I first seen probably in 2007, 2008, when I was able to find the nice girthy digibook.
It's a digibook?
It's a digibook. It also has a 1.5 hour long Malcolm X documentary. And then it's got deleted scenes. This is how I haven't even opened it up yet. You can see the digibook is still closed together.
Pristine.
Exactly. But as far as the subject matter goes, I think for a 3-hour and 25-minute movie, it flies by. We talked about it in The Godfather. We'll talk about it here today. But first off, I want to say nobody else could have directed this movie other than Spike Lee. Nobody else. And he goes on record by saying, with all due respect to Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, whoever considers anybody a great director, none of them could have pulled this off.
No.
Because there's no way that they know what it's like to be in those kind of shoes. With all due respect, even Spike Lee even said Amistad should not have been directed by Steven Spielberg. Yeah. With how great he is, Steven Spielberg made a movie.
I can back that up. I've seen all his movies, and it's an okay film, but it doesn't.
It shouldn't revolve around those two characters.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Around
it feels Spielberg, but someone else needed to direct that.
Oh, so. I want to chime in. I want to say it was Denzel. It may have been Jamie Foxx, but I think I'm almost 90% it was Denzel. Somebody had asked him about shooting a certain film. He was like, you can't have Scorsese or Spielberg or anybody do this because they don't know what it's like to have a hot comb going through their hair on a Sunday morning, doing all that. They didn't walk the shoes. So to have somebody who walked the shoes and lived a lot of what was going on in the film, who knows a lot of the culture and everything that was put into the film, that's how you get things that are accurate for not only viewer purposes, but for accuracy of the film, accuracy of events. And I agree with you, Johnny. Spike Lee, which I'm not a huge Spike Lee, I wasn't a huge Spike Lee guy. I didn't know a lot of them. I knew who he was. I've seen a few of it, but this is definitely a Spike Lee film.
I think certain movies like open up people's minds to a director, and this is one of those movies where, oh yeah, everybody's heard of Spike Lee, but once you watch this movie, you're like, I need to see more Spike Lee movies. And this is exactly what that movie was for me back in the day. This was one of the first movies I think that I've watched of Spike Lee, and then after this, I was just like, what else has he done? I need to get my hands on it, or I need to get my eyes onto it. So,
Malcolm X.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, whether it's you guys or the listeners out there, if this is anybody's first time watch, hopefully Malcolm X opens the door for other Spike Lee movies to be viewed.
Yeah. And, I remember my brother getting Malcolm X on DVD back in the day. And, I was young. It's not something I didn't really care for biopics at the time. I just wanted Star Wars or fantasy, something like that. But I'm just surprised it took me about 22 years for me to come out and actually watch this film. I would say around 8,
which is a good thing, because you could have watched this at 10, 15, or 16 and you're like, definitely not my cup of tea, never picking it up again.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's to me, that's like a good thing. And it, so I don't know. I didn't know how to. Oh, I know how to. But when you're talking a 3-hour movie in an hour-long conversation, I'm like, you got to kind of break it down into hours, like we did The Godfather.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go over just a little bit of each hour. The first hour you get the early years of Malcolm X. Like the synopsis said, his early gangster years, his young, dumb, full of everything in between years. So you see him going and dealing with drugs. You see him going and dealing with robbery, dealing
Archie.
with dealing with so many white women that he probably shouldn't have been dealing with back in the day because he knew it was going to get him into some kind of trouble. Um, Spike Lee's character, who he's not in the film very very long, but he does play
Shorty.
Shorty. So he gets introduced to so many negative influences in his first early years in the first hour of the movie.
Yeah.
It goes through the flashbacks of him working in the kitchen and kind of listening to the boxing fight, and him kind of like him talking back, and the older workers that were around him were like, watch your mouth, and he's like, who is he? He's nobody to me. um so I really did enjoy, Zach. We'll keep going over it, that this 3.5 hour movie just flew by, because especially when you take 3-hour movies and you break them up into an hour like that, like Spike Lee did, Francis Ford Coppola, like it does make a 3.5 hour movie just kind of just zoom by, and you get introduced to West, who is played by Delroy Lindo, a great actor who Spike Lee uses in a lot of his movies. He was the biggest influencer, I think, in early years of Malcolm X, but it ended up still catching up with him. What do you guys think of Delroy Lindo in this movie, and what do you guys think of the early years of Malcolm X in the movie?
Zach, I'll let you go.
One of the things I really do appreciate this film doing is, I obviously I don't know much about Malcolm X other than what the face cover value of what I was taught in school and everything.
Oh, you were taught Malcolm X in school?
We didn't read his autobiography, but I'm just talking about like as a glance, like what he was
okay.
during this time in the 60s and whatever.
That's a question of mine too that we'll get to a little bit later on.
I appreciated that Spike Lee didn't sugarcoat anything. He was a criminal. He was doing drugs. He was probably a pimp at one time. He was robbing houses. He really sets his character up as a flawed individual, but as the film progresses, you can see how he gets to what he is known today and what he's known for. And kind of going back to your thing, Johnny, about it being 3 hours, the editing of this film is pitch perfect. The first hour you have his young grown up time. Second hour is when he gets into the Nation of Islam and kind of the back hour of that. And then honestly, hour 3 in the last 20 minutes is his assassination. I mean, it kind of just like sums everything up.
Yeah.
And what was your original question, Johnny? I'm sorry. I just went on a rant.
What did you guys think of the early years of the movie?
Oh yeah, just I appreciate that they didn't sugarcoat it. Like this was him as a young kid, and he did dumb, stupid stuff, and some of it came back. And I even though Delroy Lindo is not in the movie that long, I thought that he had a significant presence in the film.
Yeah.
My biggest rant about this movie is that it only got 2 Oscar noms and it won 0.
Yeah. Here we go.
What else was out that year?
Well, let's take a look. I think that was the year of. Here we go.
92. So
that was Unforgiven. The year of Unforgiven. Clint Eastwood. Let's see. Denzel went up against Stephen Ray for The Crying Game. I don't know what that is. Clint Eastwood for Unforgiven. Robert Downey Jr. for Chaplin, and then Al Pacino won for Scent of a Woman.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, you can attest to it. I think you like Unforgiven more than I do. So,
can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear.
Scent of a Woman? Are you kidding me? Like, I know it's Al Pacino, but I mean, come on, you're taking.
Here we go.
You want to know what it was? You want to know what it was?
What?
Malcolm X, 73 million. Hold on.
Unforgiven, 159, almost 160 million dollars.
That shouldn't matter though. Like, it doesn't matter how much, you know.
Scent of a Woman, 134. Double the amount of people saw it. And I think, let's be honest, the subject matter of the movie, I guarantee you it played a role.
I think that's what it comes down to.
I think that's all it is the subject matter of the movie. And I think still to this day, while you have some people talk about some of the greatest biopics of all time, you know, I still think even to this day, if this movie were to come out today, still, I think Denzel would get the shaft. You know, it's just really unfortunate that all this hard work from Spike Lee, from the writers and the actors and actresses, like this should be a movie that is played. And Zach, this is leading back to another question I asked. You learned about this in school? I was not, you know, and I'm coming from a year or years in school where the early 2000s, so we could watch things in school. We could learn about things that we can't learn about today.
We didn't watch this movie, if that's what you're asking. We didn't watch that in school. I'm just talking about.
So you're telling me that your history teacher had a week or had a few days and talked to you guys and taught you about Malcolm X?
No. I'm just talking about just in the grand scale of American history. You know, when we got to the 60s, it was kind of like, okay, so here's the civil rights, here's Martin Luther King Jr., here's Malcolm X, just like that, just like the basic one-note details. They didn't go into much, like we didn't do a whole week on Malcolm X. So you read his autobiography or anything.
No,
of course not.
You spent all the time on Martin Luther King.
Right.
That's just like everybody did. They don't want to do it on Malcolm X.
There's so many other great historical figures out there, like Malcolm X and others that we could have been learning about throughout school or just in general as a society. But when you look up Malcolm X in the dictionary or when you look up Malcolm X on Google, one of the things that's next to his name is extremists.
Or controversial.
I don't understand that whatsoever. The word extremist can be used in so other many terms and so many other conversation pieces, but the guy for his day and age, did you guys hear? I don't know if you guys watched any of the speeches. You know, the movie made you want to look up Malcolm X speeches. I mean, yeah, some of the stuff he says could offend somebody, but he's speaking the truth for the time and for the day and age that all the stuff that he was going through, you know? And even, I don't know if you guys, I don't know how you guys watched it, but when you put the Blu-ray in, you know, usually you hear like title music in the background. You hear a Denzel speech from Malcolm X, and the speech is phenomenal. But after hour number one, you know, you got the early years. He gets sent to prison, and he's in prison pretty much for the start of hour number two. What do you guys think of the coke room scene where he's going through and taking the coke, and you know he's playing around with the gun, and then just a few scenes later, you know, he gets in trouble for burglary, and he gets like 14 counts, and I think he gets like 10 years, right?
Yeah,
8 to 10 years per count. Yeah, it's all stacked. It's stacked.
What do you guys think of the sentence, and what do you guys think of the start of hour two of him going to prison?
Well, I for, you know, the let's just tell it as it is in the movie. The white girls only got one count, and that was for burglary. And, you know, they were given the time for first-time offenders. And, you know, he says it in the movie, they were given the full effect, and it's not even for robbery. It was for sleeping with the white women, which at that time, it was a big deal, you know. And so that's why he goes to prison. It's if it was anybody else, if it was all all 4 of them were of the same race, they all would have had the same sentence. More than likely, maybe the guys get a little bit harsher since they are guys, but not nearly to the extent of what was thrown down to Malcolm X and Shorty.
Yeah. And I thought that the prison sequences before he gets kind of like into studying the Nation of Islam, the solitary confinement sequences I thought were very, you can kind of tell how someone loses their insanity if you were put in that situation for just days and days and maybe even months on end. All you see is like a little hole, like probably that big of light. And that's your only contact, basically, for anything, whether it be food or anything. I thought that there's a scene in there, and you guys might have to help me, where they were talking about like the black and white definitions and how like you might have to help me out because it's just I remember it being a very powerful scene, but I don't remember like.
Are you talking about when he's reading the book and he's telling them to
from the dictionary?
He's like, you need to be able to understand what they're saying to use it against them.
Yes.
And he starts reading off aardvark and all that stuff.
That's I thought that was probably a very influential scene. I don't know if that happened in real life. I don't know, but go ahead, Greg.
I was just saying, like that, when he's getting taught the messages from Elijah Muhammad, it's a lot of the stuff, whether you believe in a religion or not, me personally, just as what I believe in, like it's all kind of the same basis. Just treat everybody respectfully. And one quote that Elijah gave him, which kind of stuck out to me, and I made a note of, the mother is the child's first teacher, and the message that she gives the child is the message that the child will give to the world. Now, I agree that to a certain extent that is the truth. People can change and adapt and not go the way of their mother. And maybe that's the reason why they choose to change. But it's 100% correct. Everything starts in the house. And how you choose to be as a parent is going to affect the way your child carries out himself or herself at school, in public, in their teenage years, in their adolescent, going into adult stages. What you do matters. And everybody wants to say we need a president that's for change. We need somebody who's going to be for change. That's true, but it all starts with you. If you're not willing to make a change yourself and be the example for your child, none of that matters on the outside.
So, Craig laying down some law.
Hey, I got inspired, bro. I got inspired. All right, that's all I'm saying.
You know, that's one thing I appreciate about this movie is Spike Lee shows you young Malcolm, the flashbacks of his mom and his dad and what they went through and how, strong and how big and powerful his dad was, but he wasn't going to back down from anybody, So, going into year number 2 or hour number 2, you get a new Malcolm. He comes fresh out of prison, and you start seeing the Islam freedom speeches.
Yeah,
I had one more thing before we jump out of that.
Go for it.
We all kind of see Malcolm X as what he is. People saw him for a leader and everything like that, but I'd never heard about Elijah Muhammad. And to me, what this movie showed is that he is essentially the one that created or freed, however you want to put it, Malcolm X. He's the one that showed him the way. He's the one that told him, not everything has to be done with violence. And he said, you want to grovel and crawl for sin, but you won't do it for your soul. Like you want to go through all this trouble for all the negative stuff in your life, but you won't do anything for the positive stuff in your life. And like, just as a teacher for Malcolm X in that movie, I think he was very pivotal. It's not just he was in jail and he sought, religious freedom. He was specifically told by somebody the teachings of it. And I thought that was big.
Yeah, I think it's it's a relationship that's interesting to dissect a little bit because it's on one end, like you say, Craig, it's kind of he's the creator of the Malcolm X that we know today, basically. And so when he later in the film, when it kind of backfires on him a little bit, and Malcolm kind of learns the truth of Elijah doesn't really follow the rules of Islam and all this and that. It kind of he doesn't. I don't think he wants to take responsibility for what he meant to Malcolm's life. Does that make sense? It's kind of like I want you to be part of my teachings and everything, but when you start to have your own say or use your own voice, then no, you can't do that. But in reality, it's kind of all he did was kind of take your teachings and just like fixed them or just use them in a different light.
Yeah.
But is he also not the one who started tearing down what Malcolm was trying to build?
Yeah, because like after, and this is jumping way in like later in the episode 2, the second hour of the film, it's revealed that Elijah Muhammad fathered like 3 or 4 different children out of wedlock with different women, and that's a really big no in the Islam nation. And so Malcolm, I think he's deeply hurt that the person that he looked up to is not really what he says he is. And so when he goes out there and tries to create his own society or his own religion or whatever you want to call it, the Nation of Islam looks down on him for that, and that's ultimately one of the contributions to his death. Honestly, if you kind of want to peel back the layers a little bit.
What did you guys think? This to me was not. It's not a funny haha moment, but I watched this movie over the weekend when some personal things were kind of ruining some good times. So I wanted to bring this up to you guys. What did you guys think? One, of Angela Bassett playing the wife as Betty. I think Angela Bassett is somebody who does not get talked about enough today, especially with how many great roles that she has. And, I'm sure we're going to see her in November when we talk Black Panther 2. But I think her in this movie, she didn't get enough recognition. A, because she's standing next to the great Denzel Washington. But B, she holds her own up against Denzel. Especially in this, what did you guys think of the scene where, the accusations were coming out that he was sleeping around still with other women, and she brings the accusations and the paper to him. All he wanted to do after going and talking and doing his speeches and doing his thing, all he wanted to do was come to a quiet home, kiss his daughter on the head goodnight, got an ice cold glass of milk, and he sat down. And, do you guys ever have any of that personally? Like in your life, you look forward to something, whether it be a glass of milk or some dinner or a snack, and you sit down to enjoy it, and then boom, something like that happens, and the entire thing is just ruined.
The whole evening's ruined. Yeah.
Not even just the whole evening, but just that one subject matter, that one glass of milk or that one Gatorade is completely destroyed. I don't know why, but when the accusations were going on, he set the milk down on the dresser, and I'm like, dude, that milk ain't going to be good in like 15, 20 minutes. It's not going to be cold. You're just want to throw it out. I don't know why, but just something like that small thought, popped into my head. And I don't know, but to me, it shows the value of how important Denzel makes everything around him, whether it's picking up a glass of milk or whether it's putting the newspaper down really, really hard on the coffee table. Like, it wasn't as good as Fences as far as the conversation and the arguments that they had, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
Angela Bassett, though, what'd you guys think?
I thought she was good. I think, I didn't know her kind of story went back this far. I just kind of knew her recently from some earlier 2000s stuff going into Black Panther and all that. A lot of these older films, that's, I see a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I see people kind of saying like she's one of the figures of the African American community when it comes to actors, like her, Jamie Foxx, Denzel, Morgan Freeman. et cetera, et cetera. She's up there with him, and I didn't know why. But seeing her in this movie, I kind of understand. Like, okay, she's been a part of some very controversial films, and she was very good at it. So,
Yeah, I think, to be honest, and this is not Angela Bassett's fault at all. I just don't think she's in the movie that long, to be honest, to make a big impact on the viewer.
the grand scheme of things, yeah.
Yeah, I think her biggest moment comes, like you said, towards the end of the film, Johnny, where they're having the argument about the accusations, and ultimately her worrying for her husband's life and the lives of her children.
I gotta say the opposite. I think she has an extraordinary huge role in this movie, even if it is for the short amount of time that she's in it, because of those things that you just said, Zach. The accusations, the argument, the scene where she's in the house and he's in a motel and she keeps he's like, don't answer the phone. Just her mannerisms while she's getting those phone calls or while she's trying to hold her kids. A little bit way later in the film when they're writing to his last speech, the way she's holding the kids in the car ride on the way to I think she plays a huge pivotal role in this movie. I agree. I don't think it was long enough like I would have liked it to be.
I felt like, maybe because I just didn't know the story, I felt like Delroy Lindo's character, West, or Archie, because I didn't know like what his impact was on Malcolm's life, I thought that he held a more significant presence, if that makes sense. I didn't know if he was gonna like attempt to kill him, which he ultimately does, but I didn't know if he was gonna be like just a constant menace throughout his life, even like when he gets out of prison and everything. But there is that scene when he goes to visit him and he's basically this broken shell of a man, and I thought that that scene was very powerful.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the what happened to our women speech when he's sitting there and he's talking, about our women, and that goes into looking at Teresa Randall's character, which was an old lovey of his, and he ended up seeing that she turned into pretty much a prostitute, a crackstone, prostitute. And he's looking and he's saying, what happened to our women? They're now prostitutes, drug dealers, not taking care of their babies, not going to school, not going to church. Some of these speeches that he had throughout the whole movie, which were based off of real speeches, but the way Denzel just delivered them, it felt like it was his own speech.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite speech through the movie? At least I'm not gonna ask you, hey, what was your favorite Malcolm X speech, but just in the movie in general.
Do you want us to point to which one, or is that what you were saying by don't point it out?
No, you can point it out. I was just saying it doesn't have to be like a real Malcolm X speech, just something that was in the movie.
Yeah, I like the one where he was talking about. Although I don't agree with all of it, I do agree with things being planted in certain neighborhoods to hinder their growth. I agree with that wholeheartedly that happens. But I can't remember where it was. But he's on like the kind of wooden stand, and it's in front of the banner that says 2 million something. But he's talking about, every time you break that alcohol bottle, it's that alcohol seal. It's I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's just like, everything you do that is hindering your life, the drugs, the alcohol, that's all been put there to hinder your and diminish what your life. And it's true. Like if you let things consume you and go down that path, that's kind of why I don't agree with like him saying it was put there on purpose. But stuff is made, and if you let it take over you, then yes, it is sort of placed there on purpose.
I wanted to bring this up because it was very powerful in the movie, and Spike Lee has a lot of guts to not only bring this quote out, but also put it in the movie and make it a stamp piece in this movie. Just a few years ago, prior to this movie, 1990, 1991, Warner Brothers released JFK. So a year or two later, Malcolm X was released. And the quote that's in the movie, which is a real life quote, is a comment made by Malcolm X in reaction to the murder of President Kennedy in 1963. He said the killing was merely a case of chickens coming home to roost in direct defiance of an order. Uh, Elijah Muhammad told Malcolm X not to talk about it and not to bring anything up, but he did, and that's what he said. Do you guys think that not only in real life, that's the potion that stirred the pot between the two in real life, but do you think them putting that in the movie and focusing on that just a little bit, not only bringing it up once but a few times, do you think that still barricaded Warner Brothers to be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't push this movie as hard as we should, especially with JFK just coming out a year or two before Malcolm X? I don't know. I just thought I'd bring that up because, him speaking 100% what he believes in and truth is what made the man, the myth, the legend, somebody who speaks his mind. You look at it some odd years later, the truth behind that statement, very powerful.
It's interesting, yeah.
Especially when there was so much, white on black going on and just innocent people getting shot and beat down almost like today. The same thing, but one of their own was gunned down by one of their own. That's what I got from it. And it was like, Elijah Muhammad was like, hey, don't go there. And he went there. But I mean, whether it cost him his life or not, he had the guts to say what he believed in.
Well, I mean, there's talk that I'll tell you guys this off air. I would rather not say it. The CIA's listening or whatnot, but I do agree that if the public is sort of like on a leash. Well, not even just the public, everybody. They'll give you a little bit of slack, but once you start crossing that line to make people actually realize and understand that there might be a little bit more going on,
mm-hmm.
they're going to cut the head off of that movement. We've seen it with 3 people.
So let's dig
in.
Let's dig into it right now. Then, Craig, you don't have to talk if you don't want to. You don't have to answer. I'm gonna go straight into the end of the movie. Do you guys think it was somebody from Elijah Muhammad's camp that gunned down Malcolm X, or do you think it was somebody who knew that he kept pushing the tides, and maybe somebody who was involved with CIA or different other kind of actions out there?
I think it's a mixture. I think they both had the same.
If that news came out just 3 days ago, and at the end of the movie you see a guy from Breaking Bad, he's in talks to play Charles Xavier. He's the one who in the movie quote is the one who finished off
Giancarlo Esposito,
he's the one who finishes off. But if you go through what Spike Lee has in the movie, there was 4 or 5 people who shot at Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Initially, the guy with the shotgun, then the 3 or 4 pistols.
Yeah. I think, we'll never. This is one of those things that we're never going to get the true answer to.
The Illuminati could have done it.
Well, and I think it could also be one of those instances where he was saying stuff that was pissing off 2 people, A and B just happened to get there before A did. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been one of those instances.
I don't think the government or the CIA really had anything to do with it. Yeah, were they spying on him? Were they, tapping his phones and everything? Yes. I mean, it's clearly depicted like that in the film. In my personal opinion, the way this movie is directed, the way Spike Lee sets the scenes up, I think it goes back to, I don't know if the whole Nation of Islam or just a crew, like a set crew of Elijah Muhammad's followers. I think it was them that ultimately killed him.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about? There's that scene in the movie before. There's that scene where the guy comes up to Malcolm and he's like, "Hey, they wanted me to hotwire your car to where when you start it blows up."
Yeah.
And that's when he, was it before or after that scene where his house caught fire? It was after that, right?
It was after. Yeah.
It was after. So they had already started trying to get to him and his family.
And love is not the good word. I thought it was very well done. When Malcolm's family's house when the house gets attacked and gets set on fire, it's a juxtaposition to what he experienced as a boy, where his family and his father with the Klansmen and his father tries to be strong, and Malcolm's trying to be strong in that moment when it was dangerous. The fact that he tries to stand up to him, like he's talking to the news reporter and he says, everything okay? How are you feeling? And he says, look behind me. How do you think I feel?
But there was also, so when he goes and does the trip to Islam, and he comes back and people are like, I think somebody asked a question along the lines of, it's like, it has to do with violence. He's like, no, I've prayed to the same God with red, yellow, white, black. I drank from the same cup. I ate from the same plate. I thought that was very powerful. Whereas, like, if he was to just come out and say, we're oppressed, we're this, we're that, and he's only talking about we, I could see how that message would be portrayed by some people. But he talked about how he ate, prayed, drank with people of all nations, of all colors.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with, he had no ill will towards any of them. It's the fact that, like, all he wants is to be treated equally. He's talking about, the United Nations, they're talking about racism over there, and there's racism down there, and they talk about it and they bring it up. But over here, they just let it slide.
Well, it also goes back to, I think there's also like a miniature change in between when he gets with Elijah and when he gets out with Elijah. Because I think in the beginning, he's kind of, and I think this what comes into the extremist part of his legacy, is that he kind of was siding, violence towards white people, in certain ways. I've seen different speeches and portrayals of that. But after it gets out with Elijah, he's kind of quoting what Martin Luther King's doing. He's wanting peace. He just says, look, like you said, Craig, we're all the same person. We may be white, black, whatever, yellow, but
in a lot of his speeches, you can point out and segregate what he means by certain hatred. But in the documentary that I got to check out, which I highly recommend, it's Malcolm X documentary called By Any Means Necessary. It's narrated by the great James Earl Jones, and James Earl Jones reads the monologues as if he was Malcolm X. And in some of those real life speeches, Malcolm is like, we are not mean people. We are not irritated people. We are not harmful people. We are harmful if you are harmful to us.
Right.
We are
that's what I was...
we are disrespectful if you are disrespectful to us.
What I wanted to get at was, in the movie, he's talking about getting rifles, and the reporters asked him, he's like, why are you telling black people to get rifles? He's like, the same reason white people have rifles, for self-defense. If they can do it, why can't we? And that's like, yes, if you're saying it like, why are you telling black people to get rifles? Yes, it sounds like you're trying to incite violence, but all he's stating is that if they can do it, why can't we? He's just, all he's wanting is equality, and all he's trying to do is get the point across that we want the same rights that the white people have. And I think that's just the biggest thing. And everybody back then was taking it as, you don't have that right, essentially.
Right.
Like, you don't have the same right, so you can't do that. You can't tell your people to get the gun. And that's why people were calling him an extremist, because he was telling people to get the guns. And it's like, he's not an extremist. He's simply just telling his people to do the same thing that the other side is doing.
Yeah.
And there's and again, it's about the news reporters flipping the question around. And I know one of the questions were like, how many good white people are there compared to like so many good black people? And he's like, there's bad white people, there's good white people, there's black bad, there's good black. He's like, but I'm just looking about who's the right human.
Yeah.
That's all he was. He was like, who's the perfect or who's the most righteous human compared to the dirty or the nasty or the ugly humans on the inside. And I think those speeches, for some reason, get covered up because they don't want you to hear that kind of thing.
The equal right, the love for everybody, the equal love for everybody.
Everybody love everybody.
Yeah. And that's because before I watched it, I was like, oh, Malcolm X, very, you
knew what the public wanted you to know.
Right. It was very extremist. I'll just go ahead and use that word. That's kind of what I thought of what Malcolm X was. I wondered why a lot of people looked up to him and had him on the mural with Martin Luther King. And I was just like, in my opinion, from what I was told, he's not the same as Martin Luther King. He is the same. He just went about it a little different way. And like this movie, Spike Lee did a very good job of saying, like, yes, he was a flawed human being, but at the same time, he grew and he learned to love and be with anybody of any color. It didn't matter. And he said that, and he did it, and he portrayed it in the film.
I know there was somebody in the movie, character-wise, named Judas. But what did you guys think of just that whether that was true or not, just the story of potentially at the end of the movie, Malcolm X's, round table people that were surrounding him, like the Judas story, ended up ultimately doing away with him?
I mean, it's one of those things where no matter what your message is, people will always follow money. Money corrupts everything. Money is the root of all evil. And if you're willing to give somebody enough money, they're willing to do the dirty deed. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. It'll be done for money. It doesn't matter.
And the thing is like, I think when Spike Lee made this movie, I think he had to go off eyewitnesses' accounts and people that were willing to talk about the that his death and try to put the puzzle pieces together to kind of create like the most accurate version at that time.
Denzel did the same thing. He had a live seminar with Malcolm X's brother. His wife was always on set, so they all went through
piece by piece.
Yeah, they went extreme as far as trying to get as many inside details that they could as far as like historical facts.
And I thought it was so interesting, and maybe because it's, again, I don't know the whole history of this, but I thought it was very, very interesting when they're driving, everyone's driving in the car. The assassins, Malcolm X, and the family are all going to the theater
with the same Cook song playing in the background.
It's the same. That's the same Cook song that was played in Ali, the Will Smith movie, when Malcolm X was assassinated in that.
It's also played in Craig, you had it as number one. Or with not One Night in Miami. Not Bohemian. I'm sorry, was it your number one? It was your number two.
Judas?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Judas, yeah. It's the main song that was played in Judas. Yeah. So
it's all
interconnected.
We got the multiverse of madness here. The MCU.
So Warner Brothers put up $35 million to make, or $25 million to make the film. In the documentary, it does state that people like Oprah Winfrey, Ben Cosby, and some other historical figures helped Spike Lee finish making the movie for the budget. Yeah. And everybody was just so powerful and so committed to making this movie happen. Spike Lee's cut of Malcolm X was 4.5 hours long, and the studio did not have it, and they wanted him to do this story in 2 hours. And Spike Lee was like,
"You can't.
There's no way you can tell a Malcolm X story in just 2 hours."
And the interesting thing about it is that we really, other than Ali and One Night in Miami, we've never had another attempt at a Malcolm X biopic, because I think this is like this is definitive one. I don't think you need to do another one.
I don't think there's a director out there that can pull it off.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's so much respect towards Spike Lee and the amount of Spike Lee is not just a director. Spike Lee is somebody who's going to do the research, do the character the justice. It's not like he's going to come out and say, here's this character, we're making a movie, this is it. And there's no lack of foundation or evidence for that person, for somebody to be like, okay, they missed out on this, we need to talk about it, and I'm going to do it again.
Well, here, and I hesitate to bring this up because I know Spike Lee is a very beloved filmmaker, and I mean, I'll say it. I know I've seen a lot of his movies. He's a very well-talented director, I think. And Craig, I know you haven't seen a lot of his films, but Johnny, if you want to comment on it, you can. I feel like his messages or his politics kind of, they overplay in his films. Like, what I mean by that is that there's a scene, I think it's either Black Klansman or The Five Bloods, where the two characters talking, and out of nowhere there's a Trump rally that gets shown up here. It's like what does that have to do with anything? You know,
it has everything to do with anything, going all the way back to do the right thing.
But here's my thing. There are some people that want to watch a movie and they don't want to be reminded about what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Well, it honestly depends on what decade you're watching your Spike Lee movie in, because he pulls up the same kind of stuff and Do the Right Thing. It's only relevant now because of it was the United States versus Trump, or the other way around. It just depends on what decade you're watching the movie in. But it's okay for, Leonardo DiCaprio to go up and talk about saving the planet, or it's okay for what's her name, actress, Julia, help me.
Meryl Streep.
It's okay for Meryl Streep to get up and talk about and push all her politics on everybody. But for some reason, Spike Lee's always a little bit different, right? He's different from everybody else. He's not able to do the right thing, with no pun intended. But he has the platform of taking his subject matter, which he is extremely passionate about, and he's a beyond fantastic filmmaker. But instead of making a movie about queens and kings, or a Gotham Knight, he takes his platform and he makes a story of what was an issue in the 60s, what was an issue in the 80s, and guess what? Black Klansman 2019, an issue in 2019.
And that's the thing. I'm not saying you're wrong, Johnny. I'm saying you could watch Do the Right Thing and compare it to Black Klansman or even the Five Bloods. Thematically, they're the same exact film. They're dealing with the same issues. They're dealing with the same struggles. But sometimes you don't want to. Sometimes you don't want to hear that as an audience member. You just want to just watch like Inside Man, where it's just a bank robbery film.
But I think there's still those problems in Inside Man. He got game. Same kind of issues. There's just a different subject matter surrounding the issues. Spike Lee's not going to sugarcoat it. It just said here, Malcolm X, $73 million. Do you think he cares how many people go and see his movie? He's making money off of it anyway. Yeah. His most important thing is to put his subject matter out there. So guess what? If you're not comfortable with watching The Five Bloods or Black Klansman, then go watch Downton Abbey, or go watch Marriage Story, because he's going to put out his movie. If you don't like it, guess what? You don't have to go see it.
Go ahead, Craig. Go ahead.
I don't want Johnny to go on a rant against me, and I don't want to sound. I get what Zach's saying, but at the same time, Johnny makes a valid point. What he shows in the film is what he feels is happening in that era, and he's a director. He's putting on film his beliefs on what's happening at that time, and for him to not do everything that he's doing would be a disservice to the people who trust in him to make the most accurate portrayal of the events in his mind. So whether you think it's too much or not enough, I think that puts on the subject of it getting talked about. And that could be another thing. He's doing something to bring attention to it, whether it's controversial or not. And I just think that's, for him to put everything on paper and then put it on film is Spike Lee. He's not gonna, like Johnny said, he's not gonna sugarcoat it.
And that's the thing, because like I feel like such a hypocrite right now.
No.
Like I feel like I'm just sitting here bitching about Spike Lee's message in the film, but I know when I'm watching a Spike Lee joint, I know what I'm gonna get. I know that there's a message he wants to bring to light, which even though sometimes it annoys me as a viewer, I appreciate what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's a catch-22 thing. Yeah.
And Shyrock City is a perfect example of that too. But again, like you said, Zach, you're going into a Spike Lee movie knowing what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So and he knows that. That's why he'll still put out whatever he wants. So he does. He's not trying to.
It's like Rob Zombie.
Yeah, there you go. Unless you make a PG-13 Monsters movie.
Well, but I mean, like we're not going to get. I'm talking about Rob Zombie in general. He believes in the gore. He believes in the violence. He believes in that aspect of movie going and that aspect of the horror genre, and that's what he's going to put on film. And it may be disturbing to some, but guess what? That's Rob Zombie.
And it's insane to me that I was about to say Samuel Jackson. Spike Lee has done all these movies, and he's only won one Academy Award, which was for Best Adapted Screenplay. He's never won for directing. He's never won for Best Picture.
It's because he doesn't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. He doesn't sugarcoat it.
And he'll never make a movie to try to win an Oscar. He might get nominated, like Black Klansman, but guess what? He knew he wasn't going to win. So did he show up to the ceremony? No.
Yeah, he did. He won. He was there. He jumped in Samuel Jackson's in his arms when he went up on stage.
Oh, okay.
But I think you're right. I think he doesn't care about the accolades. He doesn't care about the money. He doesn't care about the box office. He cares about telling what may be a very personal story to him and wanting to tell the message that comes along with it.
So after the assassination of Malcolm X, you get which I thought it was, the narration, which I didn't know this, but Nelson Mandela, who you can see at the end of the movie, he was obligated not to say by any means necessary. His country was not allowing him. He felt like it was not right for him to say that. So that's where they edited and had real life Malcolm X say by any means necessary. What do you guys think of that last 5 minutes of that 5-minute monologue, or the ending monologue, and then going into the end credits? What do you guys think of that ending?
I thought it was powerful. I mean, I really thought that his legacy or outcome or aftermath of what happened to him, I think still holds to this day. This film turns 30 years old this year, and like you say, Craig, he's in the not monuments, but the memorials with Martin Luther King, and just people still talk about him. And I thought it was very interesting that Ozzie Davis, who does the narration, was actually reading his own eulogy that he read at Malcolm's funeral. So I thought it was so cool that Spike Lee was able to get someone that was at the funeral and read what he read, and that's how he ends the film. So, What about you, Craig?
Again, like you, I just think just kind of wrapping up everything, and it's just the narration at the end of those kinds of movies where you're showing stuff on the screen, and you're kind of overlapping and talking about what was going on. I feel like those are the best ways to end biopics, because it kind of shows like, okay, the movie's done. We can cover a lot more in these final 5 minutes by narrating and talking over what's going on than to kind of have it play out. Because if you play it out, it's going to be another 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll say 15, 20. But if you narrate it, it's like, this is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. And then we're done. Because kind of like in The Sandlot, I know it's kind of very weird, but it's like Joey went off to college. He went to the big leagues. He's married and had kids. He passed away.
I don't think I've ever seen Malcolm X and The Sandlot in the same sentence.
Probably never again. Only on the Solo Review podcast. But that's just it's a way to just wrap things up very rapidly because you've already told the story and you just want to get a few things out that cover a lot of areas. And that's what I think. That's what they did.
Zach, you want to start off with a favorite scene?
Probably. You know what? I'm going to do something I'm going to take something from each hour of the film. I enjoyed the kind of like his introduction as kind of like this, like hanging out in the criminal underbelly of New York with Delroy Lindo. I thought that was kind of cool scene in his rise to gangster power, if you want to say. In hour 2, when he's kind of learning about when he's in jail and he's kind of learning about the Nation of Islam, and he's just so dedicated to his work. And when he actually meets Elijah Muhammad, there's just like tears flowing. I thought Denzel portrayed that excellently. And in the last scene, well, not the last scene, but in the final hour, and we can talk about this a little bit. I thought the way Spike Lee shot and wrote the assassination scene, I almost felt on the way to the theater, backstage, before he actually walks out on stage, I almost felt like there was a sense of he's preparing to die. Almost.
He knew it was coming.
Yeah, in a weird sense. So
I would have to say the same thing. Like, I'm not going to go through and take your idea, Zach, but I will say that the car ride scene with that song playing from Sam Cooke with the family in one car, him in the other, it really did feel like he was riding to his execution.
Yeah.
His little daughter dropping the toy, and one of the guys who shoots him picks it up and says, "Here, little sister," such a strong scene. And then that would probably be one of my scenes. That's just, it's dark, it's powerful. But I wanted to bring this up. I didn't bring it up, but I have it in my notes. In every hour, there was the scene where he had that look on his face. You heard gunshots, then it went on to the next scene. Did you guys notice that throughout the whole movie? You would just hear in the background the gunshots, and then he would have that blank stare on his face. For an example, him and Shorty were playing in the park, playing cops and robbers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Malcolm got shot and he laid down. He had that blank look on his face, and then you heard the gunshots in the background. It kept playing throughout the whole movie, and it was just like,
I thought I was just hearing stuff.
No, and like even though that was just Malcolm X really did die way years before, so we know the story, but it just had that eerie feeling throughout the whole movie, and
that was almost kind of like a not a premonition, but almost like a
inevitability.
Yes,
right. Even the way he was playing with, even the way he was using or playing with a gun throughout the film, it's like he knew that his death was going to be by gunshot.
All right. I just want to talk about whenever he falls down and the camera's looking up at him and he's on the grass. Very Spike Lee. I know I don't watch a lot of his movies, but I could tell that was definitely a Spike Lee shot.
It's a signature move, yeah.
When and I messed up when I was talking about Elijah Muhammad, I meant to be talking about Bimby in prison. The guy who was telling him all the stuff and kind of introduced him to Elijah. But my favorite scene by far was right before they go rob the house. The guy that they meet who takes care of the old man, and he's like, "Let's flip a coin for it." And he puts one bullet in the gun, and he's like,
"Yeah,
I'll go first." And he gives it to him. He's like, "Oh, you don't want to do it? I'll go again." I was like, Denzel, like that scene right there, by far was like the best scene in the movie for me, and I can't believe I forgot about it until now. But yeah, when he did that, I was just like,
and I like how it showed his dedication to like, no, you're either in this or you're out. What do you want to do? That probably should. I thought that would probably win him the Oscar, that scene right there.
Yeah, but then he pulled the trigger on his nose and he's like, "Hold on, I did too. You get two." He's like, "You got it, man. You got it." Yeah, that that scene, when I saw it, I was just like, that's Denzel at its core. Like, that's the reason Denzel is Denzel. And so that's my favorite scene. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
That's a good scene. That's a good bring up. And you know what? Yeah, Zach, you're right. Like that should have been his Oscar moment. Um, and I don't know if you guys, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on air or just publicly, but every year of the podcast we have a theme for that year. Every year has a theme. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, or if, I've never talked about it on air. But every year has a theme. This year's theme is Denzel. We're finishing up, uh, with a top 5+5 in December. We started in January with the tragedy Macbeth. So this year's theme has been Denzel. And, whether it's this week, we're dedicating a whole week to Denzel starting today and Thursday. Um, November or September, I can't remember which one, but we're dedicating an entire month to Denzel again. And then we're leading into our December episode. So, like, it is just baffling, like, how many terrific and great movies this guy has. And, it's been an honor to talk about some of the movies this year: Tragedy Macbeth, Training Day, Glory, and now.
He's truly one of the all-time greats. Like, there's very few, in my opinion, who are up there with Denzel. But dude,
I don't think honestly, if there was a Mount Rushmore, I think he's in the middle, and the 3 or 4 people that's next to him are maybe like, he's A+, and I think everybody else surrounding him is A-. He doesn't have movies like Meet the Parents, or he doesn't have movies like War with Grandpa. You know what I mean? Or he doesn't have movies like
Man in the Iron Mask.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's just, and it's, he's pushing out a lot of movies at some point in his early 2000s, but movies like Out of Time, Man on Fire, The Taking of Pelham 123, those are still solid movies.
Yeah.
So,
I think the thing with Denzel is, I think you're going to get quality. Overall, you may not appreciate the finished product, but you can definitely appreciate him being in the film as an actor. So even something like Jennifer Jordan, he's not in it, he directed it, but I mean, you can kind of tell it is a Denzel film. So,
Zach, you've been kicking us off this whole episode. Let's start off with you. What's your star rating for Malcolm X?
So, I feel like this is going to be a Goodfellas situation where I give it a certain grade, and then I get a listener email saying, like, why didn't you just go all the way and give it so and so? I'm going to give it a 9. I mean, truthfully, as a first time watch, I thoroughly enjoyed this. Like we said, the fact that this is a 3.5 hour film, it flies by. Spike Lee directs the hell out of it. Denzel is incredible. But truthfully, it's not one I'm going to go back to often. I mean, truthfully, just say right out. I might watch it maybe another 2 times, but I think for it to be a first time watch, I was just thoroughly impressed, and I kind of don't want it to be tarnished by repeat viewings. So,
I'll say that by saying this. I've seen this movie multiple times. Whenever I want to go for a good Denzel performance, it's Training Day, Fences, and then this one follows. And for the for the length, for the girth, I don't mind it. There's maybe a few scenes or two that you can probably skip and be okay with, but at the end of the day, it's all important. It's all good dialogue. Denzel steals the entire show, so therefore the 3.5 hour movie that he's in, every scene is just a joy to watch. So I'm gonna give this movie a 10. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I'm really ashamed and sorry for some of the listeners out there. It's not on HBO Max anymore. When I first announced this movie 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago,
they heard us.
But now you can watch it on Tubi for free. So instead of 3.5 hours, I believe it's like 3:45 with the ads. There's 15
it's not even
minutes.
that long. I watched it on Tubi.
Okay.
You get
So-
an ad like every 45 minutes, and it's like
Oh,
a
okay.
15
that's
to
not bad.
30-second ad. Yeah, it's not
Okay
too
then.
bad.
Okay, cool. So yeah, go check it out on Tubi then for free. Craig, what about you?
Um, I had to split this movie up into two and a half viewings. So I'm definitely going to rewatch it again when I have some free time. Again, 3 hours is pretty girthy. But I feel like this movie deserves a solid watch where you're not bothered. I feel like this movie covers a lot, not only in the aspect of history, but as covering a person who you may have a skewed perception on. So you need to be able to go in with an open mind, not just for the character, but for the story in general. But I enjoyed the watch. Denzel gives a hell of a performance. I agree with you guys. The 3 hours kind of flies by, even though it was multiple viewings for me. I'm going to give it a 9. I really can't wait to sit down and watch this again as a full viewing. But
And
not many movies like this with that kind of story matter give performances. Like it's very few. You got like Ray, you got Malcolm X, there's a few others in there. There's not many who give this type of performance for the movie that it is.
And I will say, when I was kind of like you, Craig, I broke it up into hours, or just broke up the film where I didn't watch a lot. I would set my mind to say I'm just going to watch an hour of it. I got through another hour and 30 minutes of it because I really wanted to keep watching it, and I couldn't really stop. It's like, okay, I got to get to like 2 hours and 30 and I'll stop. But I just kept going. And another thing we didn't talk about, and I will wrapping up, was the hospital scene where they march to the hospital, and he like uses his hand, and everyone like moves and sync.
Yeah.
It's just, I thought that
It's
was
like, dude,
obscene.
that's a badass. I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And not only that, like I know we're done with the movie, but it goes into the restaurant scene where the guy comes up to him. He's like, "I want to be just like you," and he's using the derogatory language towards Malcolm, and he's like, "Hold up, like the guy already knows, like I can't use that language anymore." So he's like, "I want to be like you, brother," and just it's not only was he portraying equal rights, he was portraying like don't use that derogatory language towards each other. Like that's what slave owners used to us as slaves, and we don't need to be reciprocating that between us because we should have respect towards one another, and we need to leave that in the past. And I think that's the biggest thing that I got from this movie is that he was so ahead of his time for moving forward the advancement of the African American mind that he even called himself Afro American instead of the other derogatory words. And I think that's something that is kind of taken for granted when you think about Malcolm X, is that, people thought he was just an extremist, but really the main thought for him was just, from what he learned, is just to advance your way of thinking. You don't need to be derogatory towards not only your kind, but anybody. So we'll leave you with that.
I think it's time for the email bag.
The mail's here.
All right, guys, you can email us at the show at cinemen921@gmail.com, or hit us up on all the social media accounts. And that's how we will read the email bag every single week. cinemen921@gmail.com. Barry says Malcolm X was an enjoyable film. The 3 hours kind of flew by, honestly. First time watch, and I was not disappointed. 10 stars. Phyllis says Thor was kind of ass, honestly. Phase 4 is a disappointing set of films. By far the worst phase in the MCU. Thor gets a 5.
I want to talk about that a little bit. So a lot of people are talking about, kind of going back to, like they had mentioned Shang-Chi. They were like, a lot of the early parts of Shang-Chi were already filmed, so it allowed people to kind of do the CGI on their own time and spend more time on it. And Shang-Chi had some really good CGI. Like the train scene was really good. There was some other stuff that was really good. But then you start going forward, and it's like, Black Widow didn't have the best CGI. These TV shows aren't having the best CGI. And there's even talks of the workers talking about how Marvel's putting them, like, they don't give them enough time to do the CGI. They're putting them through immense amount of hours throughout the day to do it.
Marvel's worried about quantity instead of quality.
Quantity and quality, yeah. They were just talking about that.
I was about to say, did anyone finish Miss Marvel on Disney Plus?
I skipped to the end and I watched the end, but I've had a few people tell me to finish the series to watch it, but like
it's ass-tastic.
I'm really agreeing with the people this time. Like, they're putting out quantity instead of quality, whereas the first Phase 3 movies, first 1 through 3, they had their time. They were given proper amount of time to do the CGI.
And it also doesn't help any that, like Craig, like you said, these guys were working on it from home, probably because of COVID. But again, there's nothing wrong with altering what you want to do just to get a better quality product out.
Well, there's a quote out there. I don't know the exact wording of it, but it's like, it's better to do it right the first time, or like something like that. It's like, do it right the first time instead of like doing something half-assed.
My third grade teacher used to tell me that all the time.
Yeah, like do it to the full extent that you want it to be done. Don't just half-ass everything. Otherwise, everything's going to be half-assed instead of a few good things.
David says my top 5 Will Smith movies are in this order: 5 Hancock, 4 Enemy of the State, 3 Bad Boys, 2 King Richard, and number 1 Ali. Veronica says Malcolm X, even though it's graphic, I'm so glad I have permission to show it in my high school film classes.
There you go.
This is an excellent filmmaking. This is an excellent art of filmmaking. 10 stars for me.
I guess goes back to your original question, Johnny, of do they still teach that in school? And I guess
this was film class.
Film class.
Who sent that in?
Veronica.
Hey, Veronica, if you don't mind, do you mind letting us know what state you teach in? Because I'm kind of curious, like what state's allowing,
certain things
to do that. Yeah.
But I wonder if that's also a different thing. Like that, maybe that's another thing she can add into the email. Like, is there different criterion that she has to use being a film class compared to maybe history?
Right. Because you're not showing it for the history.
Right.
For the way it's shot and the way it's,
Exactly. Henry says, loved Malcolm X originally, but on this third rewatch, I still enjoyed it, but it got different vibes after I've seen One Night in Miami. Still enjoyable movie, 8 stars. I just believe that One Night in Miami's Malcolm X felt more like the real thing. I don't know if you guys have seen.
On next week's episode.
Yeah.
Nope is being canceled. No. So 8 from Henry. Coco Chris says couldn't find Malcolm X anywhere streaming, so I found it at my local video store for $6 on Blu-ray. First time watch, dope flick, 9 stars. I like that. I like that people not only like listen,
but they go out and find the film.
They go out and try to find what we're doing so they can watch and be a part of the conversation. Thank you. Darren says, yo, I'm excited to hear people talk about Antichrist. I think it's a great movie. Despite what people say. The message in that film is insane, and I can't wait to hear what people say on Friday the 14th. Nice.
Good luck.
Sam G69 says it's finally great to see the guys behind the mic. Been watching you guys on YouTube now, and it is awesome. Keep up all the great content.
Thank you.
Visible. We are visible.
Visual.
There you go. I told you my third grade teacher.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's visible, not visual.
Omar says, if you guys could pick another biopic to talk about, what would it be and why?
God, there's so many though.
Yeah,
there's so many.
Yeah. You know what? I thought it was always interesting, and Zach, you had it in your honorable mentions. The Founder with Michael Keaton.
Yeah, that's a really good movie.
A restaurant that we eat at probably more times than we should during the week. I think that story is just so fascinating. I think it would make for a great podcast conversation.
Yeah.
Isn't the movie also pretty controversial because he like pretty much steals the restaurant out from underneath somebody. Is that
He does.
correct?
He does steal it out from the McDonald's brothers.
That's the whole like plot of the
Premise
movie,
of it.
basically.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
Up there's the episode.
Yeah.
Episode 202.5. The founder. Where was I? Sarah 97 says Malcolm X is such a good film. It's like my 15th time watching it. 10 stars.
Wow.
Felicia says my top 5 movies of 2022 so far are in this order: number 5, X; number 4, Top Gun; number 3, Men; number 2, The Northman; number 1, Cha Cha Real Smooth.
Nice.
Is the movie really that good, Zach?
I really like it. So I mean, I know I know it hasn't got a good audience score. Like I think the ending's going to piss some people off, but to me,
what is it?
Just watch it. Just watch it. I'll let you watch it.
Where's it at?
Apple TV.
Apple TV.
Is it a movie that's based off of the Cha Cha Real Slow?
Sure, if that's what you want to say.
Oh,
take it back now, y'all.
Dakota, can you do that again, Craig, for the camera this one time?
That was your one time.
I'm gonna go back and edit that now.
Deleted scene.
Deleted scene. Jeffrey says I'm gonna have to give Reign of Fire a 5. It's kind of lame, but it feels so useless. I don't know why. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again. 5 stars. No love for Reign of Fire.
Was it? What did you give it, Johnny?
What did I give it, Zach? A 7.
Yeah, 7. I gave
it a
8.
7.
Yeah.
Was it bad or was it?
That was Johnny. That was your first time watch.
Yeah, that was my first time watch. I enjoyed it. I thought it was the episode was only 45 minutes, so it was a really fun, short and sweet conversation. I like how they used the dragons to make the apocalypse happen on Earth.
Yeah. You've seen it, Craig, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. I wanted to watch it and get on with you guys,
but yeah, and it's on Hulu if anybody needs to check it out. Kendall says Insidious Chapter 2 was a fun stream. I agree with all 3 of you. If I was ranking it out of 10, it's a 5 for me. I know it's not the best, but it's still a fun sequel. Lawrence says Thor was way too overdone with the haha and comedy. I don't know how Marvel is still going on with some of these mediocre stories. Thor is less than average. It's 5 stars for me.
That's so funny. It's so funny how like Ragnarok is like really praised, and this one's kind of like,
I think people are just done with it.
Yeah.
Like Ragnarok is a breath of fresh air compared to what was going on, but now it's like
we've done that. Yeah.
It's them damn goats.
See if the ghosts are already haunting Craig.
This is from Jared. This is an interesting story. This is an interesting question, I guess. It's my first time reading it, so I don't know if I'll have one off the top of my head. Jared said, if you guys could go back in time and hear one famous speech from anybody in the history books, who would it be? My all-time speech would be probably just anything that he said was just so physical. So, so physical. Muhammad Ali, anything that he would say live.
No, that's a good one.
So if you guys could think of anybody like a historical figure or just maybe somebody even famous, or I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it didn't say if they had to be like dead. If you guys could go back and hear anybody,
there's 2 that come to mind. One would be the Jimmy V speech when he's talking about cancer. The don't give up, don't ever give up. It can take your mind, it can take your body, but it can't take your mind and soul. And then the Lambeau speech. Lambeau did a speech going back in football, and I think
was that from Rambo First Blood or Rambo?
What did I say? Did I say Rambo?
You said Lambo.
Oh, he said Lambo. Okay.
Vince Lombardi.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Are you no. Rambo, John?
I just had Stallone on the mind. Hey yo,
this is the way we. No. Hold on. Go ahead, Zach. If you can think of one.
I probably have 2. Probably I think it'd be very powerful to see the "I Have a Dream" speech from Martin Luther King on the steps of Lincoln Memorial, and then actually kind of going with Lincoln, his speech that he did at the Emancipation Proclamation that he did at Gettysburg, or I think it was Gettysburg. Just kind of the forefront he was trying to do to abolish slavery. So I think that'd be kind of interesting.
Oh, you guys did inspirational society moving forward, and I'm doing sports.
I know it counts.
Well, I didn't go with mine.
What's yours?
I would want to hear.
Once they release Blu-ray.
I would want to hear Adam Sandler do the Turkey song live.
That's not a speech.
Oh,
I mean, turkey for you, or turkey for me.
He talks about turkey. No, honestly, if I had to hear a speech, it would be man, there's so many great ones out there. Off the top of my head, honestly, one that just sticks out, Denzel's fall forward speech. I would love to have heard that live and take a picture of that. Matthew McConaughey's Oscar-winning speech, where he's like, "Hey, this guy asked me 5 years ago, who's your hero?" And he's like, "I don't know. Asked me in 5 years." That speech right there. If you guys have not seen it, that is motivation to keep you going forward too. So those two speeches for me would probably be something that I'd want to go back and watch live.
Just not
live on TV.
No, you can go on YouTube and watch that.
Yeah, not live on TV. Just I would like to hear that in person.
Just sitting there hearing Hitler go 999.
Oh no! You guys
just turned dark.
You guys can send hate mail to Craig right there. I'm just
no hate mail. It's all love over here.
None but love, like Will Smith says.
He is the most controversial and evil person in the world. Like
Dr. Evil?
No, to see one of those speeches and just like, not saying it would be good, but like that would be like, damn, that's an evil dude up there. Like to be there in the presence of that though, like
I'd be afraid.
Exactly. Like you talk about powerful, like that's 999, like it'd be crazy.
But we said Denzel week kicked off today, so this Thursday, July 21st, me mom's birthday, we're going to be talking about John Q, Denzel Washington, Robert Duvall, James Woods, Anne Hetchett, Kimberly Elsh, whatever, the skinny chick from I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Ray Liotta. Yeah. So Zach, is this a first time watch for you when we talk about it, or have you seen it before?
I've seen it before, so like I said, I rewatched it this past week, and it'll be a fun conversation.
Nice, Denzel, and then next week, guys, episode 203, Jordan Peele's latest film, which hits theaters this Thursday.
And you can go check them out. Check it out, Rodeo Cinema.
Yeah,
let's get it.
So Nope next Monday, live right here on the Cinema Movie Podcast. Zach, do you have anything you want to add to Malcolm X before we put the final nail in the coffin?
I'm excited for Nope. I think it's going to be it was my most anticipated for the rest of the year, so I think it's going to be fun. Malcolm X, I say it's required viewing if you're going through Denzel's filmography. I mean, to be honest, it's probably, I think it'll be interesting to see where this film falls when we do our top 5+5 of Denzel films. So yeah, Johnny's already getting excited. So it's
Denzel.
Definitely just go check it out.
Craig, what about you? You looking forward to Nope next week? You have any final thoughts on Malcolm X?
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Peele is one of the biggest rising directors, if not already up there, with all the previous stuff that he's done. But again, to see where he's come from the Key and Peele stuff to the stuff he's directing and putting out now, I think is a huge jump for him. I think it shows that you don't have to be stereotyped into one category that you start off in. You can branch out and do your own thing. So I'm excited to see Nope. And yeah, I'm just excited moving forward. Like you said, we have 2 more Mondays, or is this the last Monday?
One more Monday after this, so then it's on to A24 month.
So excited for that. I was looking through the filmography of A24 and trying to figure out what to watch, which is why I stumbled on X.
So we got the bonus episodes almost figured out. So I'm not gonna go off on the bonus episodes, guys. But before we get out of here, the month of August for our Mondays is jam packed with brand new movies. August the 1st, Everywhere, Everything, All at Once. Monday, August the 8th, Marcel the Shell. Pete Davidson's new movie, Monday, August the 15th, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. August the 22nd, Men. And then August 29th, we end A24 month with X, but we start spooky season with X. So I think it's just going to be...
And those are all new 2022 A24 movies.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun.
So spooky season starts in September?
Yeah.
So we get 2 months of spooky?
2
September
months.
and October.
We're going back to old school Cine-Men movie podcast days. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait. Next Monday, guys. Nope. Jordan Peele. That's Zach. That was Craig. I'm Juan. We talked about Malcolm X. We'll see you next Monday right here on the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.
Later.
Bye.